Thursday. And it looks like I can't spell today. What are these angles? What do we call them when they, say that again? Okay, good. And what's the specific thing about vertical angles? Okay, right there, that's one of those in that chapter that you need to know, and you already know it. So I would say 4x equals 68. So then I draw my line, divide by 4, and x equals 17. How many of you got number 1 correct? Raise your hand high. See, there we go. We're already mastering some of those tests. Number 2, when I talked about triangles and stuff, this is what we need to know about a triangle. These are the things that we need to use, but this one's a little bit different than what we've gotten before because it doesn't have 2 angles. Oh, but it does here, doesn't it? What does that angle measure?
90.
So I add the 90 plus 20, and that gives me 110, and then I take that away from 180, and I'm left with 70. So right here, it's 70. But this is a straight line, right? So these 3 angles, and I'm going to give you the term, when they're next to each other, these are called adjacent. That's just a term you want to know. They're adjacent means they're connected with each other. But what do these 3 angles need to equal? 180 again. And we just said that this one with the dot was 70. So I take 70 plus 65, and I get 135. So then I take 180 minus 135, and I get 45. So this angle right here is 45. So then I do 45 plus 95 is 140, and then I take 180 minus 140, and I get 40. Raise your hand high if you got 40 for the answer. Very good. Very good. Many of you are on your way. I hope if you didn't get it that you found your mistakes. I like to highlight my parallels here. And I just read, I forget the name of this intersecting line. There's a specific term for that line. And I forget what it is right now. And I apologize. But we can tell what these angles are. These are they on the inside or the outside of the parallel? What are they? Okay, they're inside. Are they on the same side or opposite side? So what do we call those? You got to write it down. Alternating interior angles. And what's so specific about alternating interior angles? They do what? Good. Equal each other. So now I can solve it. 18x. And I know that kind of looks like it's a division, but it's just a plus, because remember I said you're just going to do, if you have anything with a variable, division is going to be looking like a fraction. So 18x plus 2 equals 17x plus, and what is that number? Do you think that number is? It's an 8, not another letter. Because in algebra, all your letters would be lowercase. So if that was an S, it'd have to be a lowercase s. What am I going to move? What do I want to move?
17.
Yeah, because I don't like what?
Negatives.
Yeah, I just don't. I like to avoid them if I can. So I'm going to, and these cancel each other out, so this is left with 1x. On the same line, I'm going to move that 2 by subtracting 2 from both sides. So these cancel out, equals, and 8 minus 2 is 6. So then just rewrite it as x equals 6. How many of you got number 3 correct? Excellent. Number 4 we did yesterday. Number 5. Out of 80 customers surveyed, 60 of them liked the iPhone the most. So 65 out of 80 liked the iPhone. If 500 people were given the same survey, predict how many would prefer an iPhone. So this has to equal, we're having equivalent ratios, so this has to equal something over 500, correct? I don't know how to get from 80 to 500. So I'm going to do my cross multiplication, showing that I have 80x equals this 65 times 500 was 32,500. Then I'm going to divide by 80, x equals 406.25, which is approximately 406 people. How many of you got number 5 correct? Excellent. Question? Do you have a question? Okay. 6, we use that for Monday and Tuesday. 7, it says which will probably happen when you roll a die 300 times. So this is our statistics and probability, like some of us want to study. It says 1 or 2 rolls. That means on the dice, you're rolling a 1 or a 2. That's what that means. I know it's a little bit confusing. So if I could roll a 1 or a 2, what fraction is that out of the die? 1/3. Well, it'd be 2 out of 6 first, right? Then you can say it's 1/3, right? But I'm going to leave it as 2/6. But I'm rolling the die 300 times. So that has to equal, on the bottom, 300. Does that make sense? You guys understand why I have 300 on the bottom? How'd I get from 6 to 300? Times 50, right? So I'd have to take 2 times 50, so that would be 100. So it says if I roll a 1 or 2, it comes up about 50 times. Does it come up about 50 times? No, it comes up about 100 times. A 1 or 2 rolls exactly 50 times. Can it roll exactly 50 times? No. Could it ever be exact? No. Probability is never going to be exact. And we would say it would be about 100 times. An even number rolls about 150 times. Well, what are my even numbers on the die? 2, 4, and 6. So that my fraction now, my probability is 3 out of 6 chances, right? And I'm rolling it 300 times. We said we had to multiply by 50. So I take 3 times 50 and I get 150. So can an even number roll about 150 times? Yes. And let's just look at D. It says an even number rolls exactly 150 times. Can it be exact? No, so your only answer is C for that one. We're going to write notes on these 2 terms. Experimental probability. It's like what it sounds. What word do I know is experimental? Experiment. It's when you experiment something, right? So experimental probability would be the actual result of an experiment. Then we have theoretical probability. What's the base word in theoretical? Theory. It's a theory. It's what you think might happen. So theoretical probability is what is expected or think to happen. So when Steven flips a coin several times to see how often heads occurs, am I experimenting or is that theory? Experimental. So number 8 is experimental probability. If I go back up to number 7, and we're talking about the probability of rolling the die, is that experimental or theoretical? It was theoretical because we didn't actually roll the dice. Does that make sense?